Breaking news as you guys are just tuning in to Time to Football live here on this channel, Time to Football. Melvin Ingram of the Pittsburgh Steelers has been traded to the Kansas City Chiefs in exchange for a 2022 6th-round pick. Guys, we are one of the first to break this information. Can't get this anywhere else. Can't get this content anywhere else. Melvin Ingram has been traded, was upset about his limited role, and now he will find a new team with the Kansas City Chiefs, who dominated. I wouldn't say dominated, but they look good. Somewhat decent against the New York Giants. At least their offense was trying to get back into the swing of things. On Monday Night Football, slipped away with the victory. Tyreek Hill has a lot to do with that, having an amazing 94-yard catch game in that 120-17 victory against the New York Giants on Monday Night Football. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of Time2Football. My name is Hassan Khan, the host of this channel. Glad you guys can be joining us. And again, if you guys are joining us live, you just heard that breaking information. Melvin Ingram has been traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. Miguel is checking in with us. Good morning, America. Hey, how you doing, man? Thank you for tuning in with us. We've got a little bit to talk about here today. We've got fantasy football to cover here on this episode of Time to Football. It's Tuesday. We always talk about fantasy football on Tuesdays and Fridays. And today we're going to give you a little bit of a preview of the ads and drops videos that's going to be coming out later on this afternoon. I get asked all the time, hey, Hassan, why don't you come out with this ads and drops video sooner, like on Monday or Tuesday? Well, I did, and then I didn't have time to make the graphics because everybody wanted it to come out sooner. So it was just me sitting here talking to you guys about it, and then everybody was like, nah, we like the graphics. And I was like, all right. And then I make the graphics, and it's like, why are you coming out with this? What do you want? Do you want graphics, or do you want it to come out early? Because I can make it come out early, but there's no graphics. Anyways, but I'm going to give you a preview of that. I'm making the graphics. We're going to release the ads and drops videos probably a couple hours before this or after the stream were to end. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a preview, like 3 players that you need to add, 3 players that you need to drop in fantasy football. So glad you guys are joining us. You get a little bit of a preview of that, as well as some players that you need to buy, sell, and hold in fantasy football. We talk about this every Tuesday. Before we get into week 9 of the 2021 NFL season, already week 9. And this is the halfway point, question mark? I mean, there's an 18-week season. So yes, this is the halfway point, week 9. Crazy that we already reached the halfway point of this NFL season. But continue to join us in the chat, and I'm going to be acknowledging you guys a little bit later on. But first, we got to talk about some NFL news and notes that's been going around the league. Again, 5 minutes ago, we just learned that Melvin Ingram has been traded. And then some other trades that have been occurring around the NFL because the trade deadline is here today, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be on the lookout for any big names that could be traded, including Von Miller, who's been traded to the Los Angeles Rams right after we ended our stream. He was traded to the Rams, and in exchange for a 2nd and 3rd round pick for the 2022 NFL Draft. The Broncos have been a candidate to trade away Von Miller for such a long time, and it's finally happened to a team that apparently doesn't think that Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald is good enough for their defense. I joke, obviously, because that defense is stacked, and they're obviously going for the Super Bowl at this point. Instant Super Bowl contenders, have been Super Bowl contenders for a very long time, but with Von Miller there, you've now got a piece in Aaron Donald in the secondary, or in the defensive line. You've got a piece in Jalen Ramsey in the secondary. And then the linebacker, maybe like an edge rusher, 3-4 kind of guy, Von Miller. Big name that they just added. And actually, I don't know if you heard the story, but Von Miller throws an annual Halloween party. And this Halloween party, Quavo of the Migos was actually attending. So it was actually a big deal. And he throws an annual Halloween party where he dumps about 6 figures worth of money into this Halloween party. Well, according to Pro Football Network, he asked his teammates to help chip in for that party. And they were kind of turned off by that. I was like, whoa, man, you made $90 million in your career. You can't just throw a few $100,000 into a Halloween party. I mean, that's a lot of freaking money. Me and my hot brunette wife threw a Halloween party this past weekend, and it cost us like $200-$300. And still we were asking people to chip in. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for food, decorations, and all that stuff. But hey, Von Miller apparently asked for money, and I wouldn't say that was a tipping point for the Broncos to be like, all right, that caused a rift in the locker room between Von Miller and some of his teammates. But they heard about the story, and they were like, okay, well, I mean, he's not going to be getting along with a lot of the Broncos teammates. It seems like we've already thought about trading him at this point, so let's just go ahead and uh, trade him away. So, I mean, I just thought that was a very interesting story. Jameis Winston has been diagnosed with a torn ACL, so he's going to be missing the remainder of the season. Now, Taysom Hill was on concussion protocol. We covered this yesterday. Has been on concussion protocol, has been dealing with the effects of a concussion. He is set to return in Week 9. We don't know if it's going to be Trevor Siemian or Taysom Hill that's going to be the starting quarterback, but we can tell you that there's a report out there that's saying that the Saints are not going to be pursuing Cam Newton as their quarterback. So Cam Newton is already off the table for the New Orleans Saints. Adrian Peterson signs with the Tennessee Titans. So this was a little bit of a quick turnaround because Adrian Peterson, it was reported that he was going to be practicing with the Tennessee Titans sometime this week. Ended up being yesterday. And they loved what they saw in the 36-year-old all-pro running back, and they signed Adrian Peterson to a one-year contract to replace Derrick Henry at this point. James Robinson, another running back, has been diagnosed with a bruised heel. This is per Urban Meyer, and now he is considered day-to-day. His status this weekend is unclear. We don't know if he's going to be playing. Carlos Hyde would be the next man up to take over the lion's share of duties. Danielle Hunter, the longtime Minnesota Vikings and very, very good defensive end for the Minnesota Vikings, has been diagnosed with a torn pectoral that he suffered against the Dallas Cowboys, and it is a season-ending injury, so a big blow to the Titans or the Vikings defense. Tutu Atwell, so this is a guy that a lot of people in fantasy football or whatever, like, oh, this guy's gonna break out. Hold on. Tutu Atwell has been diagnosed with a shoulder injury, and now it is season-ending, so he's going to be missing some time. I don't think it's that big of a blow for the Los Angeles Rams. I know that he played on on special teams, so that's going to be a blow on their special teams. But Atwell, shoulder injury, going to miss the season. The Jacksonville Jaguars claimed Devine Ozigbo off the waivers. This is in wake of the news of the James Robinson news. Bruised heel, unclear if he's going to be playing. The Saints released him when they traded for Mark Ingram, and so the Jaguars, perfect opportunity to get back Ozigbo that previously played for the Jaguars, and now he is going to be, we expected to be activated off the practice squad to back up Carlos Hyde if James Robinson cannot go. Chris Carson is targeting a Week 10 return. This is big news. So there's conflicting reports out there because some people believe that, Chris Carson, the Seahawks fear that he might be done for the year. Well, then Pete Carroll comes out and says, actually, Chris Carson wants to get back into practice. He feels like he can get back into practice, and they have a Week 9 bye. But in Week 10, it's a possibility that Chris Carson could be playing. Now, more than likely, that's a quick turnaround for a neck injury. That's pretty serious. I don't expect him to be back if he were to return until like Week 11. But Chris Carson is dead set on making Week 10 that goal and returning for the Seattle Seahawks in that lineup. Kevin Stefanski wants Odell Beckham Jr. more involved in the offense. He actually took the blame. And he didn't blame Odell at all. He said, I am doing a terrible job at including Odell in the offense. We need to include him more. He has been dealing with some shoulder injuries as of late, but he wants Odell, who is very talented, who has been rumored to be traded by the Cleveland Browns. He wants him to be a little bit more involved, so it looks like that Odell will probably be staying in Cleveland. Jack Conklin, speaking of the Cleveland Browns, has a dislocated elbow. He's going to be out for multiple weeks. This is a big blow to the Cleveland Browns offensive line because Jack Conklin has already been missing some time due to injury, and now this is just big blow for the offensive line. George Kittle is returning to practice this week. Now, we don't know if he's going to be activated off of IR just yet. He has a 21-day window where if he were to be activated, they want to make him a permanent active. That 21-day window according to NFL rules. So George Kittle is going to be returning to practice, so his return is imminent. It could be happening very, very soon. Jeff Wilson, also for the San Francisco 49ers, is set to return to practice this week. Jeff Wilson, if he were to set to return to practice, he could be immediately going into that number one running back role. So Wilson, be on the lookout for him. And then lastly, another player that's on IR that could be returning to practice, actually confirmed by Matt Rule that he is returning to practice this Wednesday, is Christian McCaffrey. Set to return to practice. His timetable to actually play is unknown. We don't think it's going to be in Week 9, but maybe, hey, after that, Christian McCaffrey could be back on the roster for sure. For sure. No pump fakes this time. And that is your NFL news and notes for today. All right, now what we do is we preview the fantasy football ads and drops that we have for this week. That we're going to be coming out with that video later on this later this afternoon after the stream were to end. Now, I want to go ahead and say yesterday I took a dig at what's the guy's name? Fantasy football counselor. Because I was talking about Calvin Ridley and I saw him comment that what's the reason why Calvin Ridley is missing? We want to know. And then I was like, dude, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And then a lot of people came out and said, oh yeah, don't worry, dude. You're not the only one that doesn't like the fantasy football counselor. Now, it would be bad for me to not acknowledge this on air and say that he actually posted Calvin Ridley's statement on Instagram and said, "Get well soon, Calvin Ridley." So I think once Calvin Ridley announced that, okay, I'm going to be stepping away from football, he had a little bit of a change of heart, and he announced like, "Hey, get well soon, Calvin Ridley." So class act post by the fantasy football counselor. So we kind of took digs at him by saying like, "Dude, who cares about like what he's going through, what Calvin Ridley's going through? Like, why are you so negative and you yell all the time and you're just so pessimistic?" Which I still don't agree with his methods of getting big, I guess, because it just encourages like the negativity that you always see in the comment section on social media. He just feeds into that because us as a world, we always focus on the negatives and we disregard the positives, and he feeds into that. So still don't agree with that. Still not going to be like hopefully collabing with him anytime soon. I don't want to. We asked some people to collab on this channel, and he's not going to be one of them. But yeah, I had to acknowledge like, hey, he actually had a little bit of a change of heart with Calvin Ridley. So don't want to bring any man down. Don't want to ruin anybody's reputation. But anyways, with that said and out of the way, fantasy football ads and drops. A little bit of a preview that we want to show you on this show. We're going to show you three ads of the weeks and 3 drops of the weeks that you need to consider off the waiver wire this week. So first off, the ads of the week. I think the first one I'm going to lean in on is this guy has been rising up on my watch list for the longest time. I picked him up to stream him this week, and it ended up turning out to be pretty well for me. Pat Freiermuth is someone that you need to look into if you're weak at the tight end position. Because listen, the tight end, there's only like 5 of them that you can start. Pat Freiermuth could make it 6 now with Eric Ebron dealing with an injury, a quad injury, hamstring injury, one of those. And Freiermuth took advantage of the opportunities, had an amazing back of the end zone toe tap touchdown. And I think that's going to be a little bit more on the regular for Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger has a lot of trust in him. Was a high second-round pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Freiermuth, it's a tight end that you need to look into, our tight end out of the week. Another little bit of a player that you need to look into and adding. I've talked about this guy for a few weeks now, and this is your last chance. Michael Gallup. He's available in 50% of ESPN leagues. And if you don't add him this week, oh my gosh, it'll be too late. It'll be too late. He was heavily targeted by Dak Prescott prior to him getting hurt in week 1. He's going to work in really, really well in that Cowboys offense. Dak Prescott, he's good to go. He only had to miss 1 week. But other than that, he's going to be practicing fully. So Michael Gallup, someone that you want to take advantage of. He's going to be on the fantasy radar. An instant flex play every single week. Consider that. The last player that you want to look into is Jeremy Nichols of the Tennessee Titans. Now, I have him as an ad of the week over Adrian Peterson. Wow. Hey, Adrian Peterson's going to be the hot ad this week because of his name value, because, oh, man, he's taking him for Derrick Henry. He's going to be the ground and pound, the bruiser back. Cool. Awesome. I like Jeremy Nichols much, much more than a 36-year-old that hasn't been playing all season long. Now, granted, Peterson looked great for the Detroit Lions last year. He looked great, but Peterson is stepping into a role. That's a tough task to ask Peterson to take over as a 3-down back. It's not going to happen. Jeremy Nichols is going to split some carries with him, at least 50-50. And in PPR leagues, I am taking Jeremy Nichols over Adrian Peterson. So while everybody's putting in their high amount of fab money for Adrian Peterson, I encourage you guys to look into Jeremy Nichols. He might be a guy that you may want to target. So those are 3 players that you want to add. Now, 3 players that you want to drop in fantasy football. Now that you got your fix in CJ Uzomah, hey, you found out the hard way that Uzomah is not legit. in fantasy football, at least. In real life, yes, he's a really good tight end. But I'm talking about in fantasy football, where you only get 2 or 3 targets a game and you're getting 2 touchdowns. That's not sustainable. We've been saying this for weeks now, and people still added CJ Uzama. I encourage you guys, don't do it, man. Don't do it. Don't fall for it. You're gonna be burnt. And then I hopped on Twitter, and everybody was like, "Man, my team sucked this week because I started CJ Uzama." Well, dude, what? It's not sustainable. It's not. So instead of dealing with a headache of, do I play Uzama this week? Do I not? Don't deal with it. Just drop him completely. A legit like 25% of people added CJ Uzama this week. I was like, don't do it. And they found out the hard way. Anyways, drop number 2 that you need to drop in fantasy football. It's Randall Cobb. Hey, this worked out for you if you picked him up after Devontae Adams and Alan Lazard were out with COVID. Awesome. He got you 2. Now drop him. Oh, he got you 2 touchdowns. He got you a lot of fancy points. Drop him. Oh, but Randall Cobb it has a history with air. Drop him. He's not worth it. Devontae Adams is back. Alan Lazard is back. He only had 3 receptions of 4 touchdowns or 4 targets for 15 yards. That's not sustainable. That's not a fantasy football output that I want to rely on. And even if it comes back to that instance where Devontae, Alan Lazard, all of them are missing some time, Aaron Jones seems like he's going to be the leading receiver for the Green Bay Packers. Drop him. Drop Randall Cobb. Last player that you want to drop in fantasy football, Damian Williams. It's gotten to that point now where Khalil Herbert has locked in as a handcuff for David Montgomery. Damian Williams safely dropped to the waivers. It doesn't matter. He actually suffered an injury, and prior to that, he was on the opening drive splitting a good amount of carries with Khalil Herbert. Like the Chicago Bears wanted to go for a 50-50 approach, it seemed like. But he only had 2 carries for -3 yards, while Khalil Herbert had taken advantage of the opportunity to give it to him, only had positive yards. So Damian Williams is not going to be the handcuff for David Montgomery moving forward. It's going to be Khalil Herbert. And those are some players that you want to add and drop in fantasy football. Again, just a little bit of a preview. Just a little preview. Go to our channel, subscribe, turn on notifications. Later on this afternoon, we're going to release the official adds and drops video where we give you much, much more players that you need to add and drop in fantasy football. All right. Now let's move on to what have we got here? Players that you need to buy, sell, and hold in fantasy football. Fantasy football trade targets. Every Tuesday we talk about 1 player to buy, 1 player to hold, and 1 player to sell in fantasy football for each position. For quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, kickers, defense. We don't mess with that because they don't really trade them. But keep in mind that this was filmed prior to the 4 p.m. trade deadline. So if any acquisitions were to be made, transactions, just keep that in mind, that this is before the trade deadline. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with quarterbacks. Players that you need to buy. The quarterback buy of the week, same as last week. It's Carson Wentz. I encourage you guys to buy into Carson Wentz, especially with that little blunder that he had against the Tennessee Titans where he threw a pick 6. I think a lot of people's envision that Carson Wentz's value is just really, really low, that he's not a good quarterback. But I encourage you to buy in on him because look at his schedule coming up. He faces the Jets this Thursday, faces the Texans, faces the Jaguars. And this is before the playoffs. So if you're in that position where you're 4-4, 3-5, 5-3, whatever, and you're fighting for a playoff spot, there's no guarantee, but you're still in the mix. Think about adding Carson Wentz and you stream a quarterback. Carson Wentz consistently gets you 17 to 19 points on average every week. With the exception of like 1 week, he's gotten like 17 points every single week. So, Carson Wentz, quarterback that you need to buy. Quarterback that you need to sell, I had a tough time picking a candidate to sell just because it's like, I don't know if anyone would buy in on Daniel Jones or any other quarterback. But if I had to sell someone, it would be Daniel Jones. I just don't trust him. Had a great beginning half of the season as far as consistent with not turning the ball over, has been relying on his rushing as his fantasy football floor. And now the turnovers aspect of it, the inconsistencies, they're starting to slowly come back. It started coming back in that game against the Rams, against the Cowboys. Daniel Jones is someone that I would sell in fantasy football. I don't know if there's anyone that wants to buy him, but if no one wants to buy him, I would just drop him at this point. And a player that you need to hold. So candidate to hold in fantasy football. When I say player to hold, this isn't, hey, don't sell him just yet. Just hold on to him to see what he's going to do. But I'm a little bit more confident in Kirk Cousins and his fantasy value for the rest of the season. He's had 4 games this year where he scored at least 22 fantasy points in standard scoring leagues. So uh, that in itself tells me that he's part of a high scoring offense. This week pushed him outside of the top 10 in fantasy football rankings at the quarterback position. But before this week, he was a top 10 fantasy quarterback. So Kirk Cousins is a player that you'd want to hold. Running backs, player that you want to buy in on. I know this is going to make so many people upset, but hear my explanation before you jump into the comments and start giving me crap. Very, very low buy, Antonio Gibson. I know you're frustrated. I understand. I'm more frustrated at Washington not giving him at least 1 to 2 weeks to rest and not play than having him deal with the injury and play through it. Now, it's Gibson's call, pretty much. Hey, Gibson, what's your pain tolerance? Are you hurting? How much are you hurting? Can you play? And Gibson's been saying, yes, I'm good. And in practice, I mean, he's been looking decent enough to play. But the explosiveness has gone down because of the shin fracture that he's been dealing with. And it kind of sucks right now. Now they have a week 9 bye. And that's why I'm so optimistic, is that this is finally the week for Antonio Gibson to rest up and get better prior to week 10. So that's one reason why I want to buy in on him. Now, after his week 9 bye, if he just continues to suck, then I would panic. Then I'd be like, listen, you had an extra week to rest up. Why? I would panic then. But for now, I'm saying buy low on Antonio Gibson, because if you're in a position where you're almost guaranteed to make the playoffs, or you're in a position where you're got to fight for a playoff spot, listen, look at a schedule from week 12 to week 17. Seattle, Las Vegas, Dallas, Philadelphia, Dallas, Philadelphia. 6 matchups that are friendly for running backs in fantasy football. If you're fighting for that playoff spot, or if you need a running back for the playoffs, think about Antonio Gibson. The talent is there. The upside is there. He just needs to heal and rest in week 9. And if he doesn't do well after week 9, then panic. But for now, look at the schedule. That's what you got on tap for Antonio Gibson. Buy Antonio Gibson. Sell Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Gore looked good last night. Darrell Williams looked great last night. Clyde Edwards-Helaire's fantasy value is diminishing slowly. A lot of people drafted him towards the late half of the second round. Hasn't been living up to expectations. Hasn't been fulfilling the value of his ADP. And with Darrell Williams there, with Gore there, they proved that they can go off of a running back by committee approach and be perfectly fine. And I think that's what's going to happen with Clyde Edwards-Helaire back, to the point when Edwards-Helaire got hurt, I was concerned about his fantasy value moving forward, because Darrell Williams is a startable running back in the NFL. He's proved it for Kansas City prior to him getting hurt. And now Edwards-Helaire's fantasy value is down. So take advantage of that. Be like, listen, this is a second-round running back that I took in the second round. He's going to be coming back soon. You want him. Trade away Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And the player that you need to hold, I know it's frustrating right now, and it's like, when is the breakout going to be happening? Because Melvin Gordon just scored a couple of touchdowns. Javonte Williams, hold on to him for now. The breakout, I mean, for sure he's going to be the starting running back for the Denver Broncos next year, because Melvin Gordon's contract is coming to an end. But after that, or prior to that, we're hoping that Javonte Williams, because of his schedule in the playoffs, is so good that he's going to break out eventually. You got to hold him at this point. You can't get rid of him. So hold on to Javonte Williams. Wide receivers, players that you want to buy in on. Again, same thing as last week, Brandon Cooks. And this just goes back to his schedule. Seattle, New York, the New York Jets. Jacksonville, Chargers, Dolphins. 5 games where you can get some good fantasy football output out of Brandon Cooks. That's a player that you want to buy. Sell. Wide receiver that you need to sell. I know that only 14% of people own him in fantasy football. And now this week, they're going to add him a lot. Like a lot of fantasy managers are going to add him because of the news of Calvin Ridley. But Russell Gage is a player that if you own him, I would sell him. Prior to him even playing this week, sell him. this week before Sunday. Calvin Ridley has been missing a lot of games. There's been 2 games so far that he's missed because of the personal matter that he's been dealing with. And Kyle Pitts has been the number 1 target for Matt Ryan. Well, what has Russell Gage been doing in that span? I mean, he scored a touchdown against the Miami Dolphins. Cool. But Russell Gage, a lot of people are assuming that, oh, he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver. This is what I don't like about a lot of fantasy football managers is that once a player goes down, they're like, immediately they go like, oh, I need to pick up that backup. When they really need to like sit back and look at the stats and really like they rush to get him. Like they drop like $25, $30 of fab to get him, top waiver claim, whatever. Okay, this happened with Kenneth Gainwell. When we encourage you guys, listen, it's not really going to be Kenneth Gainwell that's a 3-down back. It's going to be like Boston Scott mixed in there as well. So don't rush. Don't rush to pick up Russell Gage. Don't drop a lot of money. But because of the mentality of a lot of people, take advantage of that. Be like, well, listen, Russell Gage, he's the number 1 wide receiver in Atlanta. You want him? You want a number 1 wide receiver? You just lost Calvin Ridley. Here's Russell Gage. So take advantage of that. Sell on Russell Gage. Hold. Now, he put up a little bit of a goose egg this past week against the Miami Dolphins, which was a good matchup for them. Cole Beasley came in and took advantage of that role. But Emmanuel Sanders, I mean, he's just been producing enough this season that I would not do anything drastic, and I would just hold on to Emmanuel Sanders at this point. So don't worry about it. Emmanuel Sanders is a player that you want to hold. Tight ends, buy in on Pat Freiermuth. I just talked about Pat Freiermuth in fantasy football, only owned in 8% of leagues, and I don't know why more people added him after the news of Eric Ebron suffering that injury to his leg. But Pat Freiermuth is so far. Moving forward, it's going to be the number 1 tight end for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This was his audition. He looked good. He looked good in that game against the Seattle Seahawks as well. Buy in on Pat Freiermuth. Sell CJ Uzomah. I just talked about this. You probably are the guy that added him. If you have CJ Uzomah to your roster, you're probably the guy that added him and started him, and we're very, very disappointed. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. Drop him or sell him. And then a hold, Dalton Schultz. I want to sell on Dalton Schultz just because Michael Gallup is going to be coming back. That's going to hurt his fantasy football value. But I had to put CJ Uzomah in that slot. So for now, I'm just going to say a hold on to Dalton Schultz. Let's just see one more week of how he operates with Michael Gallup in the lineup. And then we'll revisit that and see if we truly want to sell Dalton Schultz. But those are some players that you want to buy, sell, and hold in fantasy football. All right, I'm not going to spend way too much time on this, but I'm going to answer some viewer questions that you guys have. Okay, awesome. Good morning. Daniz Q, Melee, need info on Melvin Ingram. I don't know him. Need research info. Morning, by the way. Yeah, Melvin Ingram, he's just a defensive player. He's an outside linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was just very, very disappointed on his role on the team with the Steelers defense. He wanted to trade, and the Chiefs were in the conversation to trade for him. Finally traded for him. So the Chiefs defense gets a little bit of a boost on their defensive line with Melvin Ingram. How you like A.J. Brown rest of the season? Good morning, and Savvy. I like him. I like him a lot. He was a player that I wanted to buy in on early on, like in week 2, week 3. And I'm glad that I did. So A.J. Brown is a guy that I like for the rest of the season. Jack said, yo, Hassan, what's up, dude? Miguel, I just picked up Kadarius Toney for last week. Julio Jones was out. Should I stay with Toney and drop Julio? I'm tired of Julio's hamstring issues. What do you recommend? I mean, do you have to drop Julio Jones? I mean, I'd try to keep both. I really would. I know you're tired of the hamstring issues. But if I had to choose between Kadarius Toney and Julio Jones, I mean, I would choose Julio Jones. Honestly, I don't think it's worth dropping Julio Jones, but I mean that's just my opinion. Jeremy Cosby. So I've been offered Damian Harris for Mike Williams, and I'm in need of a running back too, since I lost Chris Carson. In the meantime, I've been using Hubbard, Collins, and Javonte Williams. Do you think that's fair? Who are your wide receivers? I mean, if you can sacrifice, like, if you have the lineup of CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Deebo Samuel, like 3 wide receiver, like Mike Williams, Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Jamar Chase, like you're loaded at wide receiver, sure. Sure, because Chris Carson, he says he wants to return in Week 10, but I'm not optimistic about that, man. I mean, neck injuries are serious. And this can go back to the Andrew Luck news of the neck injury when he suffered that neck injury, and there was hope all season long that, oh, Andrew Luck's going to come back after he's activated off IR in Week 8. Oh no, he's just going to miss like another week, another week. We'll shut him down for the rest of the season. Could happen with Chris Carson. So to answer your question, sure. I mean, try to get something out of him on top of Damian Harris, like Michael Williams for Damian Harris and something else. But if you have to settle with just Mike Williams for Damian Harris, as long as you're set at wide receiver, then I would do it. I got to skip around a little bit just because I'm running out of time here. Earthly Links, what's up? What up? Tate, should I drop Robbie Anderson? Yeah. Drop Robbie Anderson. He would be a guy that I would hold on to if Deshaun Watson like magically gets traded to the Carolina Panthers. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's right now. Ian Rappaport is saying that he's going to be like the Dolphins are still talking to this point as we are doing this live stream. Let me see if I have any news on him. I don't, but Deshaun Watson could go to the Miami Dolphins. So, I mean, Robbie Anderson to the Carolina Panthers. Get rid of him. It's okay. No one's going to pick him up. Edgar, I offered Lockett for Darren Waller. I have Goddard. What do you think? No. I'd keep Lockett. I mean, Russell Wilson is set to return after the Week 10 bye at the earliest. So his return should be coming in like the next 2, 3, 4 weeks or so. So that's going to help lock it out a lot. If you already have Dallas Goedert, no, keep Dallas Goedert. You're okay with him. Vic, Sig, how you going to say you like Jeremy Nichols a lot more and don't even know his name? LMAO. Oh my gosh. Did I misspell that? Hold on. You're absolutely right. I might have misspelled that on the little Jeremy. Gosh dang, I did mess that up. Oh my god, Vic, hit me up, dude. You just call me out. Message me and I'll send you a T-shirt. But oh my gosh, I can't believe I just messed that up. Golly, hey, we're live, brother. We're live. Sandra Gonzalez, good morning. Lost Ridley, but thoughts on picking up Russell Gage? Nah, don't do it. Don't do it. Russell Gage is not going to be that number one wide receiver that a lot of people expect him to be. AP, the number one waiver pickup this week. This by Cinco 2X. Nah, no. Because I would pick up Jeremy Nichols this week because he has a lot more fantasy value than Adrian Peterson. I like him in PPR leagues. I like him a lot more. Rob Dale saying, good morning. Aloha, y'all. Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Is Van Jefferson slowly starting to take over the Robert Woods role? This is by Gary Santos. Slowly but surely. I don't know if it's going to be for sure this week or this season, but slowly but surely next year for sure. I think he's going to take over in that role, and he'll be good to go. So now I had Van Jefferson as a potential add in wide receiver in fantasy football as it hasn't dropped. But, I mean, nah, it's 7 targets, 6 targets, back-to-back games. That's promising, but, I mean, I would still take Robert Woods over any sort of, doing anything crazy like taking him over Robert Woods. Let's see. What else have we got? Should I trade Darrell Henderson for A.J. Brown? I have Aaron Jones and Jonathan Taylor. This by Calvin L.Y. Are you weak at wide receiver? How weak are you, by the way? So if you have like a decent amount of wide receivers already, I would keep Darrell Henderson. But if you're desperate at wide receiver, yeah, I mean that'd be okay. With Aaron Jones and Jonathan Taylor there, yeah, you're fine. You're fine. Earthly Lake saying, yeah, I'm frustrated with Gibson. this bye week is great for him. You also say, you think I should offer DJ Moore at this point and package him for an RB? I have Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson for wide receivers, and for running backs, Zeke, Gibson, Javonte, and Alex Collins. It seems like you would need a running back. Alex Collins' value is going to diminish with Chris Carson coming back here in the next 2-3 weeks or so. Javonte Williams hasn't been that breakout player that we have been expecting so far. But if you have Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson for wide receivers, I mean, I would go down the route of this is what I've been doing because I have Antonio Gibson and David Montgomery on my team. Both of them are hurt, and both of them have been costing me games. But I'm 6-2 in that league because I've been starting Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, and Deebo Samuel in my 2 wide receiver spots and in my flex spot. So I've been relying on my wide receivers. You may have to do the same thing. You may have to keep DJ Moore and go with Deontay Johnson, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore in your 2 wide receivers and your flex, and just keep Zeke and then Antonio Gibson because Antonio Gibson has that upside that he could take off. He could take off after week 9 bye. So for now, I wouldn't really package DJ Moore. I mean, I would just lean on wide receiver heavy, not so heavy on the running backs, and you'll be fine. Let me answer one more, and then I got to go ahead and sign off right here. Edgar, you said won by 0.4 last night because of Darrell Williams' loss of yards on his last. Oh, dude, that is clutch. I love that. I've known people that have lost because of quarterback kneels, because it's like -1 yard. Ooh, that's brutal. That's brutal. Who should I start? Flex 1. Melee, I can't answer that question right now. I haven't worked on my starts and sets video just yet, but check in tomorrow and I can answer that. One more. Let me answer one more, and then I got to sign off. Rob Dale, you said, PPR, are you confident with Javonte rest of the season? I have Gainwell and Carson too. Yes. I think Javonte is the more talented out of him and Melvin Gordon. I don't think Melvin Gordon is bad. I think a lot of people were going into the season were like, oh, I'm going to draft Javonte Williams in the 5th round just because Melvin Gordon's old and slow. And no, it's Melvin Gordon, according to reports, has been looking the best that he's ever looked in his career. And it's showing. It's showing in the limited role that he has, splitting snaps with Javonte Williams. So I do think that the breakout is going to happen eventually, maybe not to the full extent that we all hoped for. And that's why I had Javonte Williams as a 10th round draft pick last year instead of a 5th rounder, like many people drafted him in the 5th round, just because of Melvin Gordon and his aspect. But, I mean, Javonte Williams, I would still have that hope and keep him. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end the show right here. We're very, very appreciative that you guys are joining us for this episode of Time to Football. Hey, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button as well. I think you have to be subscribed, by the way, to even leave a comment in the comments in the chat. So if you're already subscribed, cool. Be on the lookout. That Ads and Drops video is coming out later on this afternoon, probably in the next 2-3 hours or so. I'm going to go ahead and record on that and get that video out so you guys can see the Ads and Drops. Hey, trade deadline today, 4 p.m. Deshaun Watson, where's he going? Miami? Don't know. We'll see.